Hello, welcome to Radio 4's Consumer Programme. Today, developers are to be banned from selling houses with leaseholds. Will it stop home buyers being fleeced by soaring fees? All new houses will be sold as freehold to tackle unscrupulous leasehold charges. Community Secretary James Brokenshire also told the Chartered Institute of Housing in Manchester that he'll bar developers from selling leasehold houses through the Help to Buy scheme. Well, all this comes ahead of a Competitions and Markets Authority, or CMA, report, which is investigating ground rents and leaseholds for existing homes, which should all be good news for the National Leasehold Association, which has been lobbying the government to take action. Jo Darbyshire speaks for them. Jo, I'm assuming that most of this is good news for you.
Most of it is absolutely good news. It's a huge step forward, and I hope what will be the start of the end of the antiquated leasehold system that we have in England and Wales. Because
you've had some pretty bad experiences yourself with leasehold, haven't you?
I have. My own house has the now infamous doubling ground rent. It's currently unmortgageable and unsellable.
So, what is the difference between zero ground rent on new leases and banning new homes being sold on a lease? Isn't that more or less the same thing?
The difference is that banning new leasehold houses, that's great going forwards. The zero ground rent is critical for flats. So many flats are sold with ground rents. And there's two things really. So, the first is that having zero ground rent prevents investors having an asset class in our homes. And the second is the reason that common hold, although legislation was passed years ago for common hold across communal buildings, has never really taken off, is because there was a monetary value associated with ground rent. So this really opens the door for common hold going forwards.
But if you're already paying ground rent or have a leasehold property, you're still on the hook for it, aren't you?
And there's the sting in the tail, because what this announcement does is effectively create a two-tier system for those of us that are stuck in this mess.
Right. Will that, you've welcomed it, but you're saying for you, it doesn't improve things and it's still difficult to sell you, get rid of your house?
Yes, and I've always said that things for those of us that are trapped in this leasehold scandal would need to get worse before they get better, and that's exactly where we are now. Why would anybody buy a nearly new leasehold property when they can buy a new freehold property? So this really does ramp up the pressure on government and others to do more for those of us that are currently stuck.
What are you expecting from this CMA report, which is expected soon?
I'm really hopeful that the CMA will endorse the findings of the Select Committee inquiry, and that they will find systemic mis-selling of leasehold properties across the country and provide full and proper financial redress for those of us that were missold.
How concerned are you about the possibility? We're in a very flexible political situation, to say the least, at the moment. How concerned are you that this is now set in stone?
I have some slight concerns that it may cause delay, but I do believe that there's just such a tide of momentum right now in terms of leaseholders waking up and realising what leasehold really means, and our National Leasehold Campaign has over 14,000 members. This just can't be stopped now, the momentum.
You mentioned common holds. Can you just explain how that would make things better?
Yeah, so typically on a block of a communal building, like a block of flats, then the freeholder owns the flats, and the leaseholders are in a tenant kind of landlord relationship. What happens in a common hold is that all the owners of each unit in the block effectively are the joint owners of that building, and they take responsibility for its upkeep and stewardship.
Because there are still things to pay for, basically, that have to be paid for.
There are. They don't go away. But what common hold will do is make sure that the people who live in the properties are responsible for the upkeep and the management of that, and they're not exploited by the more unscrupulous management agents that are out there.
Jo Darbyshire, thanks very much for joining us. We did ask someone from the government to come on the programme. They said no one was available. They did say they're committed to taking bold action to reform the sector and will be pressing ahead as soon as parliamentary time allows, helping them deliver their promise to make the home buying and selling process quicker, cheaper and easier.